Today we talk about SEO. I named the webinar SEO Checklist because these are different aspects about your website that you can check right away and really by not doing much improving SEO drastically. So just very shortly about myself. So in the past 6-7 years, I started doing digital marketing. So I did not only SEO, I was interested also in other topics. I come from the software development world and I also did business consulting. And that's why I like SEO so much, because it's basically a combination of all those three things. I also started my own company this year, an own SEO agency. And today my goal is to teach you what I know so that you can do SEO for yourself. So now we have to do the boring part where I explain to you what is SEO, because we have to talk of the same thing, right? So let's define what SEO is. Everyone Googles, we know all Google. And if you type in shoes online, for example, something like this shows up. And as you can see, there are a lot of ads. Everything that has the tag ad on it, this is not what we can influence with SEO. This is paid advertisement. It's like buying a poster somewhere. It's like buying an ad. So we can't influence this. So SEO is not about advertisement, but it's about this so-called organic results. Okay, so we cannot pay to be on the first page here. For that, we have to do certain things to help Google understand our website, to create a great user experience, and so on. Now, you might think most of this space here are ads, and you're right, but this also depends on what exactly you Google and which location you're in. And what's also interesting, 70 to 80% of users completely ignore paid advertisement. I don't know, but for example, myself, if I Google something, I completely ignore the ads. It's called banner blindness. So also on websites, very often there are certain banners and advertisement, and your brain basically filters them out. So ads do work, yes, but most of the traffic actually goes to the organic results. You can also check these stats. So I will show a few stats today and also have the source in there. So this is from SMA Marketing. So if we go back now, 70 to 80% actually will click on these results and not the ads, because we don't like ads, right? Now, if you would ask me, how can we do ads very well, that's a different topic entirely. So as I said, today we focus on organic results, SEO. What does SEO even mean? I think most of you know it. It stands for search engine optimization. And it sounds very often like you're trying to make a website just for Google. But the key thing you will take away today is, what does Google want? Google wants websites to be ranked that actually create a great user experience. So SEO to me is also creating great content that your visitors of your website actually like. So you gotta keep both things in mind. One thing is the algorithm of Google, and one thing are the visitors that come to your website. You have to try to help both and not just one. So why do you need SEO? Because the best place to hide a dead body is the page 2 of Google search results. I don't know how often you go there, but most people don't. And so 75% of searchers never click past the first page. And that is the goal, or one of the goals with SEO, to get your website to page 1. If you're on page 1, you will already get traffic. And then once you're on page 1, the goal is to get you to the position 1, right? So this is why you need SEO, and you can generate a lot of traffic with SEO. One big difference, let's be honest here, so if you pay for ads, of course you're gonna get instantly traffic, but you have always to pay for it. With SEO, it might take a few months until you start getting results, but they stack. So the more you do SEO, the more the traffic will grow over time. And that's the beauty of it. So what can you do to improve your rankings? One important thing, and this is, I think, the only official ranking factor that Google actually said that it's a ranking factor, is the site speed. So let's think like Google here. Why is site speed important? It's for 2 reasons. One, it's for the Google algorithm. It's, of course, it saves the Google algorithm time to go through your website. That's one thing. And the other thing is, I don't know, but like if I open a website and it takes more than 3 seconds to load, then you usually jump off the website and go to the next one. So it's also for the user experience, right? Now, site speed is very important, and there are a few free tools where you can test it. So I did this test on my own website, and as you can see, actually, it wasn't that good. So this grade is okay. It's in the green part, but I think we can improve it. So what I did is I have a WordPress website, and I installed a few plugins. They're totally free. And after that, we got to this performance. So from 4.5 seconds to 1.5 seconds. And this took me like maybe 10 minutes. And this has a very big impact. So for the user experience, but also for rankings. Of course, if you have a new website and you don't have any rankings yet, it's not going to have that big of an impact, but you have a website that is ready for ranking. So, and this is a one-time thing. So make sure to check your website speed, test it, and these are the 3 plugins that you can use. So async JavaScript, that is for loading JavaScripts in a later moment. You can just install them and enable the settings. One important thing is also the resmush. That's basically a plugin that makes your images smaller so that the website can load faster. Now, one very important thing, when you play around with these plugins or you play around with the site speed, always make sure to test it, because sometimes it can have an effect on the user experience. Like I tested this out on one website, and then I scrolled through an article and the images didn't load, or they loaded a bit delayed, and that I didn't like. So you might have to play around a bit with the settings to create the right user experience. And here, like, yes, site speed is important, but user experience is more important. So don't try to over optimize it. Try to get a good loading time, but don't remove from the user experience. That will cost you in the end. So try to balance it. Now, these are WordPress plugins. I use WordPress for all my sites. WordPress is very SEO friendly. It's very easy to use also for my customers. And it has, as I said, a lot of plugins that are free, some are paid, but it saves you just a lot of time. If you don't have WordPress, you can use these links. For example, also the Google has a page speed test, and they tell you exactly which files you have to exclude, for example, or lazy load. And now this presentation, I will share it at the end of the webinar, so don't worry, you will get all the links in this. I will share it as a PDF then. So any questions until now? Just write it in the chat. So site speed, very important. Okay, the next big topic is mobile friendliness. So everyone talks about it, and yeah, I have to mention it again. If your website is not mobile friendly, you will have a problem. These are stats from last year, for example, 2020. And as you can see in 2020, just slightly a bit more than 50% were mobile traffic. So of the entire traffic on the internet, 50% is mobile. And that's why your website should be mobile friendly. There is also a test that you can use that I will share in a moment. And yeah, so to make it a bit fun, question, why do mobile marketers make good parents? Because they are responsive, and your website should be too. So there is again a test from Google where you just paste your URL and it checks if it's mobile friendly. So basically you get an insight how Google sees your website. But in the end, I think if you open your website on your phone, you can see immediately if it's mobile friendly or not. So if you're a web developer yourself, I think you will already do this. If you're a business and you bought a website from a website designer, make sure to check those two things, the site speed and the mobile friendliness. From my experience, website designers, they are up to date with these topics, so usually these things are fine. But if you have a website that was created maybe, I don't know, 5 years ago, a few years ago, you might have to check up on this. What's also important for SEO, which, as I mentioned before, so yes, the Google is an algorithm, and with the algorithm, they try to understand your website and if it's relevant to the users searching. But in the end, if you think about it, what are things that Google might also look at? Is it better if a visitor stays a short amount of time on the website, or if the visitor stays a long amount of time and actually browses through multiple pages on your website? What do you think looks like your website has a great user experience? Probably the second one, right? So where I stay longer on your website. So user experience, and we will get into that shortly, is very important. And also the site structure. So when I talk about site structure, yes, you have the menu, but the goal is basically that from every page on your website, you should get to any place. So the structure should be in a way that I don't have to click that much, right? So if I am on an article, I should easily get to the homepage. Maybe I should easily get to other relevant article. And this is called also internal linking. So when you link from one of your sites to another one of your sites internally, that's called internal linking. And that also has a big impact. So one thing is the general site structure with the menu and so on. So that should be in place. For example, if you use WordPress, the categories, how you define the categories. If you have an e-commerce shop, also the groups, the categories that you create for your products. All these different things, how you structure your website, they have a big impact. And another tip, so if you write, for example, an article on your website, and in this article you mention something that you already wrote about in another article, link it. So try to create internal links as much as possible, but of course, only if it makes sense. Don't force it. That's the difference today to 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you could just spam everything and Google would just rank you, but the algorithm got smarter, right? So keep it natural. The goal is always to create something great for your visitors, with, in the back of your mind, understanding what the algorithm wants. So don't overdo things, but focus on creating a great user experience. Now, yeah, user experience, what is it? So one thing is the user interface, which we already talked a bit about. So how your website is designed, the layout, the branding, the logo, the menus, the interactivity, and the user experience, that's the story. So like yesterday, I went into Google Analytics, and there you can actually see what every user did on your website. So for example, one user got to the website from Google by searching a certain keyword. They went on that site, then they actually jumped to another website. So the user experience is the entire journey. It's not just the layout and so on, but it's the capability to put yourself in the shoes of the visitor. And that's hard to do, but try it once. Open your own website and try to think, how would I feel as a visitor? I don't know this website. I'm here for the first time. Am I overwhelmed? Is there too little information? Like, what is the goal? What I try to teach always is, when you have a website or you write an article, you should have a goal. Like, what is the so-called call to action? If you write an article, what is the goal? Is it to inform somebody about something, to teach them something? So think about that when you create content or a website. And another joke, so UI versus UX, user experience. So the baby is basically your visitor, and this is how, on the left, it's how it looks like to us, right? But actually the user experience is like it is on the right. So that's what I meant. Put yourself in the shoes of your visitors, then you might see things differently and you maybe find some things that you can improve. Another thing that is very, very important for SEO is data. So if you have a website and you have maybe already traffic, or you just launched a website, doesn't matter in what stage you are, set up Google Analytics and Google Search Console. This is totally free and gives you a lot of great insight what your visitors are doing. So Google Analytics is more about the data on your website, for example, how long the user stays there, which sites they open, which country they come from. So there is a lot of data in there, and you can try to understand maybe what are the pages where people start leaving. Maybe we have to improve something there. What are the pages where they don't stay a long amount of time on it? So you can read a lot of data from there and try to understand what you have to improve. Now, Google Search Console is more interesting for SEO because you really see for which keywords your website was shown to others. So tip, just set this up if you want to do this on your own. It's very easy. For WordPress, there is also, again, a plugin where you just type in the code you get from Google Analytics, and then the site is connected. So if you want to do more with SEO, make sure to use these two tools. Very important. So You have to have a fast site, a mobile-friendly one, create a great user experience, collect data. But so where is my traffic, right? Even if you did all these things, it doesn't mean that you will get traffic. These are all things that are basically, the checklist that you should go through when you create a website, or you should at least think about this once, right? But if you have a naked website without a lot of content, don't think that your site will rank. Without content, your website will not rank. Sure, maybe for your brand name or for your domain name, it will rank, but not for like shoes online, which I showed before. If you want to rank for that, then you gotta have a lot of content about that. So if we look back here, these are paid and these are organic rankings. And if we would visit this website, it's an e-commerce shop, so they have a lot of products about shoes, right? So they will have the keyword shoes a lot of times on the website. So you need content for Google to be able to rank. Without content, you cannot rank. And that's keywords. So this is an SEO joke. Once you do keyword research, you will get it. So an SEO expert walks into a bar, bars, pub, public house, Irish pub, and so on. And that's the thing. SEO is not about just ranking for one keyword. It's about ranking for multiple keywords. Okay, that's the goal. Because when you rank for multiple keywords, your traffic will grow. Now, the next topic is actually one of the topics that in my opinion, is the biggest one in SEO, and it's keyword research. So let's stay with the shoes example. What is the goal? The goal is to understand what people are searching for, right? So we want to create content around something that people want to know or people are searching for. So this is a tool called Keyword Planner. It's also from Google. Again, it's free. The disadvantage of these free tools is they don't give you all the information. But if you're starting out, I would recommend start out with this tool. I started also out with this tool. And once you realize, okay, I want to dig deeper into this keyword research, then you can maybe switch to a paid tool. But for the beginning, this is enough. And what you basically do is you type in your main keyword. So let's say you have a store where you sell shoes. So maybe shoes would be your main keyword. And what we are trying to do here is to find keywords that we can rank for, okay? And you might have heard this already, the low-hanging fruit. So we want to find keywords that actually have a low competition. And of course, if it has a low competition, it might have less traffic. But let's be honest here, if your website is new, you don't have a lot of rankings, you're not going to rank for shoes online. So forget that. You have to search keywords that you're actually capable to rank for. So if we look here, where we have a lower search volume, as you can see, the keywords start getting longer. And maybe here, for example, women's red sneakers online, that's a long keyword and has not such a high search volume, but we would actually be able to rank for it. Of course, there are other factors, like which websites are currently number one. But these are the keywords. If you're starting out, start with these keywords. And once you start building up your content, your website gets broader, your website gets more trust from Google, and you will be able to rank for other keywords. The cool thing about it is, over time, your traffic grows and you will start even ranking for keywords you didn't target. That's the cool part. But start off small. Don't aim for these high ones. These are long-term goals, and yes, that's fine. But if you don't have a big website that exists for 5 years and you create content every day, forget it, go for these keywords. And in the end, if you think about it, if we create content for 10 of these keywords, we are at the same amount of traffic as for one big one, right? So, and one other very important thing is keyword intent. So let's take this example here, women's red sneakers online. What do you think does this person want to see? Do they want to see an article where you compare 10 different shoes and which one is the best red shoe? No, they just want to buy red sneakers for women, right? So an e-commerce shop will have more chance to rank here than maybe a blog that writes reviews, okay? So have the keyword intent in mind. That's also important. If you create a content around a keyword, you have to think about what does the user actually want to see. Now, this sounds complicated, and it isn't. If you want to rank for a certain keyword, type it in Google and look what's ranking currently. And that's probably the kind of content that will work, right? So keyword research is not about searching keywords and saying, okay, I'll take this one. It's about researching what is currently working, what kind of content do I have to create, maybe even look how long the content is that is currently ranking. Try to gather as much data as possible. And then you will see if you do that, for example, for 10 different keywords, you gather this data and you pick the one that has the best chances, then you will rank. So keyword research is about trying to find something that is fitting for your website, but also something where you have a chance to rank. Over time, you can start aiming higher and higher, but start off small. Because when I started SEO, I did the same mistake, and you don't rank, and you get a bit disappointed. So start off with small victories, and that's the cool part, as I said. Even if you would rank for this keyword, if you do it well enough, over time, you can rank also for other keywords. Like red sneakers is a part keyword of this, right? So don't focus too much on the search volume, focus on the competition, and if you have a chance to rank. So the link is again in the presentation. As I said, you will get it afterwards. This is the keyword planner. It's totally free, and you can do keyword research with this. Now, I myself, I have a paid tool. It's called Ubersuggest. There is also a free variant. So you can, I think, have one project for free. So you can analyze one project for free, and afterwards you have to pay. So of course, because I have multiple customers, I pay for this tool. And if you compare this result, we have here a much more detailed volume, so search volume. We also have here the cost per click. This would be then interesting if we put ads on Google. And these things, this is basically the paid difficulty and the ranking difficulty for organic results. Don't look at this. Every tool tries to show you this. Do your own research. Look what is currently ranking. And based on that, make your decisions. This is a number that can be misleading. So try to do your own research. And as we see here, the results are a bit different. So I like this tool personally better because it actually takes my main keyword and shows me optional ones, like, for example, shoes online for women, shoes online man, and so on. One thing that I often do in keyword research, because I use this tool, I try to target keywords that don't have a CPC, a cost per click, which means no one is advertising for it. because I don't want a scenario like this where people have just ads. But again, so there it depends. If you have an e-commerce store or you're selling physical products, then targeting a keyword where people are paying advertising for it is actually good, because if someone is paying for that keyword, it means it converts, right? That's also one thing. SEO is not just about getting traffic from Google, but getting traffic from Google that converts, right? We're creating a website not just for fun. I do that too, yes, but in the end, you always have a goal, right? Maybe to get new leads, or to sell a product, or to get to know more people, or just generally to get information out there. So there is always an intent also from your side, and have that in mind when searching out keywords. Now, maybe one thing to mention too is all the search results, all the rankings also depend on the country. So when you do keyword research with the keyword planner, you will be able to filter also by country. So you have to think about which countries you want to target, and based on that, do your keyword research. Okay, now you have the keyword, you know what you want to rank for, but what do you do with it, right? So what do we do with this keyword? This is a short on-page SEO checklist. Now, yeah, let's go through it. So there are some factors like using the keyword in the first 100 words, using the keyword in the main title, use H2 subtitles. What is this? If you're using WordPress, there is this function to have heading 1, heading 2, and this would be the heading 2 part. So try to split your article into different parts. What I like to do is have a subtitle, have one paragraph or two, and then have a picture, and then repeat another subtitle, paragraph, picture. And why do I do that? Yes, because it has SEO advantages, but also it creates a good user experience, right? I personally, for example, don't like it when I get a text of blog that is overwhelming, right? So if you split it up into chewable pieces with pictures, it creates a better user experience again. Then, of course, the content should be unique. So you shouldn't copy it from other websites. Google knows that you do that. And what we already talked about is you should link to other pages. So to internal ones, but also maybe external ones. What is an external website? It's not your website, but others, right? So I often do some research about certain topics, and if I write about it, then I will link to the resource that I used, right? And this also shows that your website is trustful, right? If you link to other websites and you give them credit, that's trustful. Of course, you shouldn't link to spammy websites, so try to link to established ones which people know, and then you're fine. All this said, just to mention, if you spam your keyword in your article, that's not going to work. So nowadays, SEO is overdoing it is worse than trying to do it a bit less. So when you write the article, you should have these things in mind, yes, but write naturally. Don't write for the algorithm, write for the people that are going to read it. Because if you do that, the algorithm will actually see this content is great, and then you will get your rankings. All this said, yes, try to include your keyword, use headings. These things are important, but don't overdo it. Now, again, as you can see, I'm a WordPress user, and there is this plugin called Yoast Seo. It's again totally free, and I highly recommend you install this because this checklist that I just talked about, and actually more, Yoast checks this automatically for you in the WordPress post. And you can see then here how many words you have, the images, and so on. So it tells you even more. This is the entire so-called on-page SEO checklist. And actually, you can also change the meta description, which is the part that is showed on Google. So Yoast SEO is great for SEO. I use this also on all my websites. Very easy to use. You can just type in the keyword that you researched in here, and this plugin will check automatically what is working and what is not good on your article. I personally started using also another tool. This is a paid one. It's called Surfer SEO. And what this does, it actually compares your content with the content that is currently ranking. And it tells you basically also what other words you should use in your article. For example, if you search for bed bug treatment, these are the words that are used very often in the articles. This is the next step, but you can do this without a tool. As I said, just Google the keyword you want to rank for, look at the 3 ranking articles, and get an idea what questions are they answering, what are they writing about. And important is you should always add your spin to the article, so don't just copy the information and rewrite it. Put your spin on it, and maybe write it a bit longer than your competition, things like that, and you will rank. So just as an example, with one of my customers, we did keyword research and we created one new site for a keyword that has a low search volume. But after 1 month, we already ranked on page 1. So this is not a common thing. Usually it takes 2 to 3 months. But that was a great example of having found the right keyword, right? Where you don't have a lot of competition. And by the content that we created a better content that was already there. And after 1 month, we ranked. And that's very cool. Okay, so we had now how to find your keyword, how to do keyword research, how to write your article with your keyword in it. And the last thing that is also very important for SEO are so-called backlinks. We also call this off-page SEO because this is something theoretically you can't really influence because other websites have to link to yours. And why is this important? Because let's assume Forbes links to your website. Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing? It's a really good thing because Forbes has already a lot of trust with Google. And if Forbes links to your website, that means your website must be trustful too, right? And the more of these links you have, the more your website will be trusted too. So backlinks are very important. Now, this is a very simple way to explain it. There is more to it. But the important thing now maybe, or the question that you might have in your head now is, but how do I get these backlinks? And I will try to give you now a few ideas and a few examples. And for example, one is ask your contacts, collaborate. Why do I say this? Again, I'll take a customer as an example. My customer works a lot with musicians. So he creates content around musicians and things like that. And then he just said, hey, I created this article about you where I basically promote your concerts and things like that. Would you link this on your website? And they did. So a lot of the musicians did. Why wouldn't they? You're promoting them, so why shouldn't they put a link on their website for you? It can be as easy as an email. So if you have contacts in your branch, then contact them, ask them. Of course, it's always easier if you create content around them. so that they benefit from it too. So of course, not everybody is going to say yes, but if you have a good relationship with them, why not, right? You link to them, they link to you, and you give each other credit. Now, another very popular way to get backlinks is by creating infographics. So why does this work? Because if you have an infographic on your website, then this is an image that very many people will like to share. Infographics are very shareable. They will also come out in the Google image search. And if someone uses your image from your website, that's basically a backlink too, unless they download it and re-upload it, but then it's not unique. So this is also a great way to get backlinks. I honestly I started doing this for my own website and starting to create infographics, but I had more success until now with the collaborating part and the next steps that will come. Another way to get backlinks is, for example, I said before, I write articles myself where I link to other websites, or let's take this presentation today, I used a lot of statistics, right? So statistics are things that people like to link to because it's a lot of work and we want to give credit to the people that actually put in the work. So if you are in a certain niche, create statistics, original ones. So do your own research. It sounds like a lot of work, but it really isn't. It can take maybe half a day and you have a great statistics that you created yourself about your own business. And this will be one content piece that people will want to share and they will link to it. So this is one way where you don't actively acquire backlinks, but it's a way of creating, again, great content that people actually want to link to them. So these are long-term strategy. If you want to get short-term results, try to get in contact with people. And we're not done here, so there is more. Guest posting, that's basically saying, for example, I have my website, beSIRIOus, where I write about SEO. Let's say you have a website too, that is maybe about online marketing. And basically what you could do is you write an article for me, I post it on my website, and I give you credit for it. So I link to your website. My advantage is that I get basically free content, right, that I don't have to write, and you get a backlink. And this works, of course, with other people too. So here again, you have to get in contact with people, but you can get great backlinks from other sites. And this is also something that I noticed recently. A great way to do this is, if you're a business, you might do PR campaigns, right? So maybe in a newspaper or whatever. And I push all my customers that if they do that, if you spend the money on being in a newspaper, then you should also make sure that you're in the online version. So many newspapers have also an online newspaper, right? So they should publish it online and link to your website, right? So this is basically an additional way to market. So you basically make a PR campaign, plus you're improving your SEO. So if you're doing this, make sure to get an article also on the online platform and make it link back to your website. And you will get traffic from it because people will read it, right? And click on your link. And also it will give you more trust from Google. Yes, and that is how SEO is done. So again, this today was an overview of a lot of topics. There are some topics that we didn't talk about yet. Now, let's use this time here for a Q&A. So if you have questions, please write them in the chat and stay with me. There are still a few things we have to get through. So if you have questions, just write on the question mark, ask a question, and I can see it. And also think about what webinar you would like to do next, or you would like me to do next. So there are a lot of topics here, and we can pick one and go into the details there. So if you have any recommendations or wishes, let me know in the chat, and the most wished for topic will be the next one. So I can see someone is typing. Let's wait for the question. Okay, so how do the links to external websites influence your traffic on your own website? Okay, so this of course depends where the link is on, right? So if we do a PR campaign and you have a news website, it depends on the website where you get the link from, right? If it's a website that has a lot of traffic, you're gonna get some of that traffic to your website. This is something that can't really be measured. It can be measured afterwards, but you don't know exactly in the beginning, right? So if you know there are these URL shorteners where you can keep track of how many people click on it. So if you're doing this, you could track the link, for example. Let's assume I get an article on Forbes and I put a link on there, then I could track that link so I know how many people are actually coming from Forbes to my website. Also, you can usually see this in Google Analytics. You see the referral traffic, it's called, and you see where they come from. One of my customers actually has 2 websites, and we cross-promote it. So we actually see when someone comes from this website to the other one. I hope that answered your question. So before you guys leave, I still have a few things I would like to share with you. So as I said, I would like to do more of these webinars. And if you have any wishes, please write them in the chat so then I can schedule the next webinar about that topic. And if you want to keep updated about the webinars, if you want to know when the next webinar will take place, just follow me on LinkedIn. I will share the link now. So at the top now, there should pop something up, and you can just click on it and follow me on LinkedIn for more webinars. I see there are more questions. Okay, what would you recommend for a new website with 0 visitors in terms of SEO? Yes, that's a great question, and that's exactly what this webinar was about. So make sure to check the things that I talked about. So the website speed, the mobile friendliness, think about the site structure, and I don't know what your website is about. I'll make 2 examples. If it is a shop, you should think about the categories. So do keyword research for your categories. And if it's a general business website, so you should have in mind what we saw today. What is your main keyword that maybe you want to target or you want to rank for in 1 year, and then try to create content around that. I'll take the example of my website. I want to rank for SEO. That's going to be impossible because there are so many, there is so much competition. But what I try to do is I try to create content around that keyword, right? So if you check out beSIRIOus on my blog, I have different articles about SEO. And that's going to help me in the future to push my rankings for these general topics. So try to do keyword research, try to think of your site structure, and make sure to check these things today in the checklist. And again, the next step, once you did that, create a content plan. So you will have to publish content. If you don't feed Google information content, you cannot rank. So what I do with my customers, depending on how big they are, we say we create 1 article a month, 2 articles a month, 1 article a week. So it depends on your resources, but you should try to publish content regularly. I hope I answered this question. Then just a second, so before you guys leave, I also share the presentation with you guys, so you have the checklist and the tools that you can use. And I saw there is another question. I'll get to it in a second. I'll just upload the presentation so you guys can download it. And then I'll get to the next question. Okay, webinars, and here is the PDF file. So it's uploading, and in a second you guys should see something pop up. Okay, converting. Okay, the file is uploading. Now I'll get back to the question. Okay, it is as a software as a service platform. How many times would you recommend to post? Okay, so the first question you have to answer here is to yourself, what is content that we can create that would improve the user experience? So I come also from the software world, and what I would recommend is, I guess your users have a lot of questions, right? You're doing support also. You have to answer a lot of the same questions in support. Why not create content about your own software, right? Where you answer how to use it. You have tutorials about your website. Basically, all the documentation you're doing or you should be doing, that could also be content. So that's one part. And the cool thing about that is that you're creating content that your users actually need, and you're creating potential for the future. And then the other content that you can create is your software will solve a certain problem, right? So let's take the keyword research tool, right? So if I offer a keyword research tool, then I want to write maybe about SEO, how to do keyword research, why that is important. So create content about the problem that you solve and your solution and things that people ask for. And once you did the keyword research for that, you will see, are there 100 articles that we could write? Are there 10 articles? So I recommend to post as much as possible as you can. Once a week, I would recommend. But the thing here is also, you shouldn't just go quantity, so the quantity doesn't matter. It's about the quality. So instead of posting once a week, I would maybe recommend then post twice a month, but then put more effort into the content. So the more effort you put into the content, the better. That's why I also talk to my customers and ask them what's their goal, right? And what are the capacities, what are the resources, and depending on that, you should decide. And if you have a new website, it would be important to create a lot of content, but I'm gonna be honest, if you have a new one, you're not gonna see results that fast. It depends. Yeah, maybe I can share something else. So for businesses, I also do a free SEO analysis, basically what I showed today and a bit more to see the potential. I'm gonna share that link. So if you're interested, I do this for free. I will let it pop up again at the top. if you're interested, you can just request it here, and then I can look at the website personally, so I can get more of a feeling what your site is about and what the potential is. Okay. Okay, so from the question before also about the linking, so I didn't answer the question really. So it's about when I have an article and I link from my article to other websites. Okay, so if you have an article where you don't link to other websites, what does that show Google? Especially if you're a new website. Most of your content will be out there somewhere else, right? So unless you're writing very, very original content and you're not doing any research, then of course you don't really have to link to any website because the content is original. So that's fine. But also, if you're doing research, you should acknowledge that, right? It's just, it looks more trustworthy, right? Like if I would have shown you today the statistics without mentioning the source, would it be less trustful? I think so, right? So you should always point to the source or recommend something, right? I like to compare this with social media. What is the goal of social media? There, the opposite is important. You shouldn't put in any links because social media doesn't want people to leave the social media platform. Google instead wants the web to get more data about the websites, right? So linking those websites with each other tells Google, for example, hey, there is another website. So basically, you're giving Google also information. And as we all know, Google loves information. I hope this helped now a little bit more. Okay, I think I answered the questions for now. If you guys want, I'll just do one more quick survey. So I would like to ask you guys what the next webinar should be about. We will try to do one webinar a month. I just have to create a survey now. I tried to prepare it, but it didn't save it. So I'm using GetResponse because there you can combine email marketing with webinars. And just a second, so I'll create the survey, and if you have questions in the meantime, just write them. So as I said, the next webinar should be one of the topics that we saw today, but in more detail. So for example, we can look into on-page SEO, we can look into keyword research, we can look into Google Data Studio, for example. And if there is something that I didn't write now in the survey, just drop it in the chat. Okay, so I think now you guys should be able to vote. So leave me your vote so I know what we should do next time. Okay, so we have one Google Data Studio. To explain, Google Data Studio is basically a BI tool that combines data from Google Analytics and Google Search Console. So you can create your own dashboards and you can have an overview of your own website. So, okay, one person can still vote. And I think we have a winner. So the next webinar will be about Google Data Studio then. I think this is a good point now to leave you guys. So thank you so much for your time. I hope it helped you. And as I said, on LinkedIn, I think most of you guys came from LinkedIn, so any updates will be posted there. And I hope to see you next time again. Thank you, and bye-bye.